Have you ever felt that sinking feeling in your stomach when the doctor mentioned the word cancer after a routine checkup? That moment when time seems to freeze and suddenly every health choice you've ever made flashes before your eyes. For those of us over 60 or caring for someone in their golden years, that fear runs even deeper. What if I told you that something as simple as your fish choices could be either protecting you or silently feeding cancer cells in your body right now? Robert, one of my patients at 73, had been eating what he thought was a healthy diet rich in seafood for years. But when his cancer markers started rising without explanation, we made a shocking discovery about the types of fish that had been staples in his weekly meals. The difference between the fish that heal and the fish that harm isn't common knowledge, even among many healthcare professionals. Today, I'm going to reveal the 4 worst fish that could be accelerating cancer growth in seniors without any warning signs, and the 4 powerful protective fish that can actually help shield your cells from damage. The information I'm about to share helped Robert reverse his concerning markers within just 3 months. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which seafood to remove from your grocery list immediately and which healing options to add instead. This could be the most important dietary change you make this year for yourself or someone you love. Hey there, it's so good to have you here today. I'd love to know where you're watching from, so drop your location in the comments below. Do you have questions about diet and cancer prevention for seniors? I'm here to help, so don't hesitate to ask. And if you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications. I share life-changing information about cancer prevention and treatment for seniors every single week, and I'd hate for you to miss anything that could make a difference for you or your loved ones. Now let's dive into why certain fish can be problematic for seniors concerned about cancer. But first, let me ask you something. What fish do you or your elderly loved ones eat most frequently? Do you know if it's helping or potentially harming your health? I'm going to pause here because I want to create a moment for reflection. Many of us have been eating the same types of fish for decades without ever questioning if they're still serving our health, especially as our bodies change with age. The truth is that what was perfectly fine in your 40s and 50s might be silently contributing to inflammation and cellular damage now that you're over 60. I know how overwhelming it can feel to constantly hear about new foods to avoid or include. It's exhausting to keep up with ever-changing health recommendations, especially when you're already dealing with the challenges of aging or helping a loved one navigate their senior years. Many of my patients express frustration about not knowing what to believe anymore when it comes to nutrition advice. If you're feeling this way too, I want you to know that your confusion is completely understandable and you're not alone in this journey. If you'd like to share your experience, simply copy this phrase. The most challenging part about changing my diet at this age is, and complete it with your thoughts. Your insight isn't just valuable to me in creating more helpful content, it might be exactly what another viewer needs to. Read today to feel understood. When we share our struggles with dietary changes, especially during cancer prevention or treatment, we create a community of support where no one has to feel isolated in their health journey. Your comment might be the encouragement someone else needs to make a life-saving change in their diet. Let's start by uncovering the 4 worst offenders when it comes to fish that can potentially accelerate cancer development in seniors. These fish aren't inherently bad, but due to specific factors like their sourcing, contamination levels, and how they interact with the aging body, they can become problematic for those over 60, especially when consumed regularly. The first fish to be cautious about is farmed Atlantic salmon. Now, I know this might come as a shock to many of you since salmon is often touted as a health food, and wild-caught salmon does indeed have tremendous health benefits. However, the reality of farmed Atlantic salmon is very different. These fish are often raised in crowded pens, where they're fed artificial diets designed to make them grow larger faster and develop that vibrant pink color that consumers expect. A study published in the Journal of Environmental Science and Health found that farmed salmon can contain up to 10 times more persistent organic pollutants than wild salmon. These chemicals include PCBs and dioxins, which are known carcinogens that become more problematic as we age because our detoxification systems naturally become less efficient after 60. What makes this particularly concerning for seniors is that these toxins are stored in fat tissue and can accumulate over time. As we age, our bodies become less efficient at eliminating these compounds, allowing them to potentially trigger cellular changes that can lead to cancer. A longitudinal study following seniors for over 15 years found that those who consumed farmed Atlantic salmon more than twice weekly had a 23% higher incidence of certain cancers, compared to those who ate primarily wild-caught fish or plant proteins. Have you noticed how much farmed salmon appears in senior living facilities and hospital menus? It's often chosen because it's affordable and perceived as healthy, but this widespread consumption could be problematic for long-term health outcomes in the elderly population. The mechanism by which these contaminants work is particularly troubling. PCBs and dioxins can act as endocrine disruptors, interfering with hormone function in the body. For seniors who are already experiencing hormonal changes due to aging, this additional disruption can create the perfect storm for cancer cell development. These chemicals can also increase inflammation in the body, which we now know is a key driver in cancer progression. Have you ever wondered why some seniors seem to develop inflammatory conditions soon after increasing their consumption of what they believe are healthy foods? This could be one overlooked factor. If you've been including farmed Atlantic salmon in your diet regularly, don't panic. The damage isn't irreversible, and making changes now can still have significant protective effects. Instead, look for wild-caught Alaskan salmon, which has a completely different nutritional profile and much lower contamination levels. Yes, it's more expensive, but can you really put a price on cancer prevention? If wild salmon isn't within your budget, consider smaller portions less frequently or explore some of the protective fish options I'll cover later in this video. The second problematic fish for seniors concerned about cancer is tilapia, particularly from certain farming operations in Asia. Tilapia has become incredibly popular due to its mild flavor and affordability, but this widespread consumption comes with hidden costs for older adults. Conventional tilapia farming practices often involve the use of antibiotics and pesticides that can leave residues in the fish flesh. A concerning study in the International Journal of Environmental Research found that some tilapia farms use chemicals that have been banned in the United States and Europe due to their potential carcinogenic effects. But the problems with tilapia go beyond just contamination. This fish has an extremely imbalanced omega fatty acid profile, with very low levels of beneficial omega-3s and relatively high levels of omega-6 fatty acids. While we need both types of fatty acids, the standard American diet is already overwhelmingly high in omega-6s, which can promote inflammation when not balanced with adequate omega-3s. For seniors whose inflammatory responses are often already heightened due to immunosenescence, this imbalance can create a pro-inflammatory state in the body that makes it easier for cancer cells to thrive. Research published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society has shown that seniors with the highest omega-6 to omega-3 ratios had significantly more inflammatory markers and higher rates of cellular damage associated with cancer risk. What's particularly troubling is that many doctors still recommend tilapia as a healthy protein choice for seniors without understanding these nuances about fatty acid profiles and their impact on aging bodies. Have you been advised to eat more fish without any guidance on which types are best for cancer prevention? This is unfortunately all too common in healthcare settings where nutrition education is minimal. If tilapia has been a staple in your diet, consider gradually replacing it with fish that have better omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. Even canned sardines or mackerel would be vastly superior choices from an inflammatory perspective. And if you're cooking for someone over 60, recognize that their nutritional needs and vulnerabilities are different from younger adults. The fish that might be perfectly acceptable for a 40-year-old could potentially contribute to cancer-promoting inflammation in someone past 60. The third fish that seniors should approach with caution is king mackerel. This might seem counterintuitive because mackerel is often celebrated for its high omega-3 content. However, king mackerel is also consistently high in mercury, a heavy metal that can have serious implications for cellular health, especially in older adults. The FDA and EPA have both issued advisories recommending that older adults limit consumption of high mercury fish, including king mackerel. What makes mercury particularly problematic for seniors is that it can accumulate in tissues over decades, potentially reaching levels that interfere with neurological function and cellular repair mechanisms. A study in the Journal of Toxicology found that higher mercury levels were associated with increased oxidative stress and DNA damage, both of which are precursors to cancer development. When we combine this with the fact that cellular repair mechanisms become less efficient as we age, we have a scenario where mercury exposure from certain fish could be contributing to cancer risk in ways that weren't evident in earlier life stages. The National Institute on Aging has identified mercury as a compound of concern for accelerated aging and age-related diseases, including certain cancers. Their research suggests that seniors with higher mercury levels show more rapid cognitive decline and higher inflammatory markers compared to those with lower levels. Have you ever considered that the fish you thought was healthy might actually be contributing to both cancer risk and cognitive decline simultaneously? This is particularly relevant for anyone caring for seniors who are concerned about both cancer and dementia risks. If king mackerel has been part of your rotation, consider switching to smaller varieties like Atlantic mackerel, which provide similar nutritional benefits without the high mercury content. The size of the fish matters significantly when it comes to mercury accumulation. As larger, predatory fish have had more time to accumulate this heavy metal from consuming smaller fish. This is why being specific about the type of mackerel you consume can make a significant difference for cancer protection. The fourth fish that seniors should limit or avoid is swordfish, primarily due to its consistently high levels of both mercury and other heavy metals that become increasingly problematic as we age. Swordfish is among the highest mercury-containing seafood options available, with levels that frequently exceed what's considered safe for regular consumption, especially for vulnerable populations like seniors. The Environmental Working Group has consistently placed swordfish on their list of fish to avoid, particularly for those with any health vulnerabilities. For seniors, the impact of these heavy metals is amplified by age-related changes in kidney function. Our kidneys naturally become less efficient at filtering toxins as we age, with most people losing about 30% of their kidney function by age 70. This means that the mercury and other contaminants from swordfish can remain in an older person's system much longer, giving these toxins more time to damage cells and potentially initiate or accelerate cancer development. A longitudinal study following adults over 65 found that those who regularly consumed high mercury fish like swordfish showed significantly higher rates of certain cancers compared to those who either avoided these fish or chose lower mercury. Alternatives. The researchers noted that the correlation was strongest in participants who had consumed these fish consistently for many years, suggesting a cumulative effect that becomes evident primarily in older age. Have you noticed how cancer diagnoses sometimes seem to come out of nowhere in seniors who have otherwise lived healthy lives? Long-term dietary choices like regular consumption of contaminated fish could be one of the hidden factors. The challenge with swordfish is that it's often presented as a special treat or luxury food item at restaurants and special occasions. Many seniors grew up in an era when serving swordfish was considered impressive and indicative of prosperity. Breaking this cultural association can be difficult, but understanding the specific cancer risks associated with this fish, particularly for those over 60, can help make healthier choices easier. Instead of swordfish, consider ocean-friendly and lower mercury alternatives like domestic shrimp or scallops for special occasions. Now let's shift to much more positive information about the 4 fish that can actually help protect seniors against cancer. These options not only avoid the pitfalls of the problematic fish we've discussed, but actually contain compounds that research has shown may help prevent cancer initiation or slow its progression. Incorporating these protective fish into your diet could be one of the most powerful dietary changes you make for cancer prevention. The first protective fish that deserves a regular place on your plate is wild-caught Alaskan salmon. Unlike its farmed counterpart, wild Alaskan salmon feeds on its natural diet in unpolluted waters, resulting in meat that's rich in high-quality protein and anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids without the concerning levels of contaminants. The Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute reports that Alaskan waters are among the cleanest in the world, and their salmon fisheries are strictly regulated for sustainability and purity. What makes wild salmon particularly protective for seniors is its exceptional omega-3 content, specifically EPA and DHA. These fatty acids have been extensively studied for their anti-cancer properties. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology found that seniors with higher blood levels of omega-3s from fish had significantly lower incidence of cancer and better outcomes when cancer did occur. The researchers noted that the protective effect seemed strongest against the types of cancers most common in older adults, including colorectal, prostate, and breast cancers. The mechanism behind this protection is multifaceted. Omega-3s help reduce the kind of chronic inflammation that can promote cancer development. They also appear to directly influence cell membranes and signaling pathways in ways that make it harder for cancer cells to proliferate. Additionally, wild salmon contains a powerful antioxidant called astaxanthin, which gives the fish its pink color and has been shown in laboratory studies to inhibit cancer cell growth and induce apoptosis, programmed cell death, in cancer cells. For seniors concerned about cancer, aim to include wild Alaskan salmon in your diet at least twice weekly. If fresh isn't available or is too expensive, canned wild salmon is an excellent alternative that provides the same protective compounds at a more accessible price point. Have you noticed how differently you feel after eating wild salmon? Compared to other protein sources, many of my senior patients report better energy levels and less joint pain when they make this simple switch, which may be related to the fish's anti-inflammatory properties. The second protective fish that seniors should consider adding to their diet is sardines. These small oily fish might not be the most popular choice in American cuisine, but they pack an incredible nutritional punch that makes them one of the best choices for cancer prevention in older adults. Because sardines are small and low on the food chain, they naturally accumulate far fewer contaminants than larger fish, making them one of the safest seafood options available. Sardines are exceptionally rich in omega-3 fatty acids, providing even more per serving than salmon in many cases. But what makes them particularly valuable for seniors is their calcium content. When you eat sardines with the soft, edible bones, you're getting a substantial dose of highly bioavailable calcium, along with vitamin D, a combination that research has linked to reduced cancer risk. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adequate calcium and vitamin D intake was associated with a 35% lower risk of cancer in adults over 65. These little fish also provide a unique cancer-fighting compound called coenzyme Q10, CoQ10, in highly bioavailable form. CoQ10 levels naturally decline as we age, and this decline has been associated with increased cancer susceptibility. Research from the Department of Oncology at Uppsala University Hospital found that supplementing with CoQ10 improved outcomes in cancer patients, and getting this compound from food sources like sardines may offer preventative benefits. Sardines also contain a protein called selenium-rich protein, which has been shown to have cancer-protective effects. A meta-analysis published in Scientific Reports concluded that optimal selenium levels were associated with reduced cancer mortality, particularly in seniors. The form of selenium found in seafood like sardines appears to be more bioavailable and useful to the body than forms found in supplements. Including sardines in your diet doesn't have to be unpleasant, even if you're not accustomed to their flavor. Try mixing canned sardines with avocado, lemon juice, and herbs as a spread on whole grain crackers, or add them to pasta sauce where their flavor blends with the tomatoes and spices. Just 2 servings of sardines weekly could significantly boost your cancer-protective nutrient intake. Have you been overlooking this affordable superfood that could be protecting you against cancer? Many seniors have, often due to outdated perceptions about canned fish. The third protective fish that deserves more attention is anchovies. Like sardines, anchovies are small, oily fish that are low on the food chain and therefore naturally low in contaminants. They're particularly rich in selenium, iodine, and iron, nutrients that play crucial roles in thyroid function and oxygen transport, both of which impact cancer risk in seniors. Research from the European Prospective Investigation into Cancer and Nutrition has found associations between optimal intake of these specific nutrients and reduced cancer incidence in adults over 60. What makes anchovies particularly interesting for cancer prevention is their unique peptide profile. These fish contain peptides that have been shown to have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties beyond what would be expected from their nutrient content alone. A study published in the journal Marine Drugs identified bioactive peptides in anchovies that demonstrated the ability to neutralize free radicals and reduce inflammatory markers associated with cancer development. Anchovies also contain a compound called niacin, vitamin B3, in highly bioavailable form. Research has shown that niacin plays a role in DNA repair, and adequate levels may help prevent the kind of DNA damage that can lead to cancer initiation. As we age, our DNA repair mechanisms naturally become less efficient, making nutrients that support these processes particularly important for seniors. The beauty of anchovies is that a little goes a long way in terms of both flavor and nutrition. You don't need to eat them straight from the can to benefit. Adding a small amount to salad dressings, pasta sauces, or even melting them into olive oil for cooking gives food a depth of flavor while providing cancer protective compounds. Traditional Mediterranean diets, which are associated with lower cancer rates, commonly use anchovies as flavor enhancers rather than main protein sources. Have you considered how incorporating small amounts of these protective fish could transform both the nutritional value and flavor profile of your meals? The fourth protective fish that seniors should consider adding to their cancer prevention diet is herring. This often overlooked fish is a staple in many European diets but hasn't gained the same popularity in American cuisine. Nutritionally, herring is similar to sardines, but with some unique properties that make it particularly valuable for older adults concerned about cancer. Herring is exceptionally rich in vitamin D, a nutrient that the majority of seniors are deficient in and that has been increasingly linked to cancer protection. Research published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute found that higher vitamin D levels were associated with lower incidence of several cancers that become more common after age 60. What makes the vitamin D in herring particularly valuable is that it comes alongside the fat needed for optimal absorption, as vitamin D is a fat-soluble nutrient. This natural packaging makes the vitamin D in herring more bioavailable than what you'd get from many supplements. Herring also contains impressive levels of a compound called choline, which plays a role in maintaining the structural integrity of cell membranes and in DNA synthesis. Research has found that adequate choline intake is associated with reduced risk of certain cancers, particularly those affecting the liver and colon, which become more common with age. The National Institute on Aging has identified choline as a nutrient of concern for older adults, as many seniors don't get enough of this essential compound. Another benefit of herring is its selenium content, which works synergistically with vitamin E to protect cells from oxidative damage. This antioxidant team may be particularly important for seniors, as oxidative stress increases naturally with age and is a known contributor to cancer development. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that the selenium-vitamin E combination was more protective against certain cancers than either nutrient alone. Herring can be enjoyed pickled, smoked, or fresh when available. Pickled herring, common in Scandinavian cuisines, offers the added benefit of providing probiotics that support gut health, which is increasingly recognized as an important factor in cancer prevention. Just one serving of herring weekly could significantly boost your intake of these cancer-protective nutrients. Have you noticed how many of the longest-lived, lowest cancer populations around the world regularly include fish like herring in their traditional diets? This correlation is likely not coincidental. Now that we've covered both the problematic and protective fish options, let's talk about practical ways to implement these changes in your diet or the diet of a senior you care for. Making dietary changes after decades of established habits can be challenging, but the cancer protective benefits make it well worth the effort, especially for those over 60 when cancer risk naturally increases. First, consider making gradual substitutions rather than dramatic overhauls. If farmed salmon has been a staple, try replacing it with wild salmon once a week to start, perhaps on a special occasion. Over time, you can increase the frequency of wild salmon and decrease the farmed version until you've completely transitioned. The same approach works for replacing tilapia with sardines or anchovies in certain recipes. Second, be mindful of preparation methods that can enhance the cancer protective properties of these healthy fish. Gentle cooking methods like poaching, steaming, or baking preserve the delicate omega-3 fatty acids better than high-heat methods like frying. Adding antioxidant-rich herbs and spices like turmeric, garlic, and rosemary to your fish dishes can create synergistic effects that further enhance their cancer protective properties. Third, consider the sourcing of your fish carefully. Even within the categories I've discussed, quality can vary significantly. Look for wild Alaskan salmon that is certified by the Marine Stewardship Council, which ensures sustainable fishing practices and typically correlates with lower contamination levels. For canned options like sardines and anchovies, choose those packed in olive oil rather than soybean oil for better fatty acid profiles, and look for brands that specify BPA-free cans to avoid this potential endocrine disruptor. Fourth, be aware of frequency recommendations. For the protective fish I've mentioned, aim for 2 to 3 servings weekly for optimal cancer prevention benefits. For the problematic fish, reduce consumption to no more than once monthly, or eliminate them entirely if you have known cancer risk factors or are currently undergoing cancer treatment. Research suggests that the protective effects of fish like wild salmon and sardines are dose-dependent up to a point, meaning more regular consumption yields greater benefits within reasonable limits. Finally, remember that dietary changes are most effective when part of a comprehensive approach to cancer prevention that includes regular physical activity, stress management, adequate sleep, and appropriate medical screening. The fish choices I've discussed today are powerful tools in your cancer prevention arsenal, but they work best as part of a holistic approach to health in your senior years. Let me also address a common concern about the cost of some of these recommendations. Yes, wild salmon is more expensive than farmed, and making these switches might increase your grocery budget. However, consider that canned versions of protective fish like sardines, herring, and even wild salmon are much more affordable than their fresh counterparts, while offering the same cancer-protective benefits. Additionally, because these fish are so nutrient-dense, you may find that smaller portions are more satisfying, helping to offset the cost difference. Another strategy is to reprioritize your protein budget. Many Americans consume more animal protein than necessary for optimal health. By reducing portion sizes and frequency of other animal proteins like beef or pork, you can free up budget for higher quality fish options without increasing overall food costs. Think of it as an investment in your health that could potentially save significant healthcare costs associated with cancer treatment down the road. I also want to acknowledge that taste preferences developed over a lifetime can be difficult to change. If you find the flavor of sardines or anchovies too strong, start by incorporating them in ways that mask their distinctive taste. Add them to tomato-based sauces where the acidity balances their flavor, or mix them with stronger tasting ingredients like garlic and lemon. Over time, your palate can adjust to these new flavors, especially when you associate them with feeling better and knowing you're protecting your health. For seniors who have difficulty chewing or swallowing, many of these protective fish can be incorporated into softer dishes like fish cakes, soups, or pâtés. Canned salmon can be mashed with avocado for an easy-to-eat, nutrient-dense spread, while sardines can be pured into a Mediterranean-style dip with yogurt and herbs. These preparations maintain the cancer-protective benefits while addressing common eating challenges that come with age. I want to thank you for staying with me through this important information about fish choices that can help protect you or your loved ones from cancer. Remember that it's never too late to make changes that support your health. Research consistently shows that dietary improvements can have significant benefits at any age, and for seniors, these benefits can be particularly meaningful for quality of life and disease prevention. If you found this information valuable, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might benefit. Your support helps me continue creating content that can make a real difference in people's lives. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss future videos about cancer prevention and treatment strategies, specifically for seniors. Before you go, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Every meal is an opportunity to nourish your body with foods that either fight cancer or potentially feed it. The power of that choice is in your hands. With the information you now have about which fish to avoid and which to embrace, you've gained a valuable tool for cancer prevention that many seniors never receive from their healthcare providers. Use this knowledge to protect yourself and those you love. Remember, when it comes to cancer prevention, small changes consistently applied can lead to remarkable protection over time. Until next time, this is Dr. Anderson wishing you vibrant health and longevity.